My name is Brooke. I'm 29 years old, a combat medic, and I don't believe in financial accidents. Control isn't emotional. It's procedural. The comment came halfway through dinner. My stepmother swelled her wine and smiled across the table. It must be nice, she said, having all that military savings just sitting there. My father kept eating. It isn't sitting, I replied. She tilted her head. Family helps family. Access is important. Paperwork makes things simple. Paperwork. I set my fork down. My accounts aren't shed. She laughed softly. Everything's shed eventually. I met her eyes. I monitor everything weekly. She didn't respond. She just changed the subject. And that was when I understood she wasn't joking. She was testing how closely I was watching. If you think overreaction solves betrayal, this won't be that story. I don't raise my voice. I don't guess. I verify. I was 29, active duty, 6 years in uniform. Combat medicine trains you to assess damage without panic. Stabilize first. React later. Every Sunday night, I reviewed my accounts. Not casually, methodically. Credit report, access logs, balance shifts, hard inquiries. It takes 11 minutes. The Sunday after that dinner, minute 7 flagged something. It wasn't a withdrawal. It was a hard credit inquiry from a private lending group I'd never contacted. Amount requested, $60,000. I hadn't applied for anything, and the inquiry wasn't exploratory. It was pre-approval. My stepmother doesn't argue. She documents. When she married my father, she reorganized the house like it was an underperforming department. Expenses were categorized. Receipts were archived. Conversations were summarized and saved for clarity. When I turned 16, she added a tab to her household spreadsheet labeled variable costs. My name appeared beneath it. Gas, food, school supplies, additional utilities. Each line item timestamped. She never framed it as punishment. She framed it as education. If you understand what you cost, she would say calmly, you understand value. My father would shift in his chair. He never defended me. He never agreed either. Silence was his compromise. By 18, I understood something she didn't realize she taught me. Tracking is power. When I enlisted 3 weeks after graduation, she asked what the return on investment would be for the family. When deployment bonuses came, she asked whether I'd updated my beneficiaries. When I declined to discuss details, she stopped asking directly. Instead, she asked about access, emergency authority, shared visibility, joint contingencies. At the time, I thought it was control disguised as concern. Now, reviewing that $60,000 inquiry, I recognized the pattern. She hadn't been tracking cost. She had been studying entry points. And she had finally found one. Base housing is quiet at night. Orderly. Predictable. The opposite of my father's dining room. I logged into my credit monitoring portal again, slower this time. The inquiry wasn't a soft promotional check. It was a hard pull from a high-interest private lender specializing in short-term liquidity loans. Requested amount, $60,000. Status, approved, pending final verification. My name, my social security number, my date of birth, application timestamp, 3 days earlier. I had been on shift for 16 hours that day. I checked the contact section. The phone number listed wasn't mine. The email address was almost identical to mine, 1 letter off. Close enough to pass initial review. Close enough to reroute alerts. My pulse didn't change. Instead, I opened my banking app and verified my military savings account. Balance intact, which meant the loan hadn't been disbursed yet. It was waiting for confirmation. I called my father. Not accusatory. Neutral. Did anyone ask you to co-sign something recently? Silence. Then, your stepmom handles paperwork. That wasn't an answer. It was a deflection. And the lender's dashboard showed one more detail. Funds scheduled for transfer within 72 hours. I didn't call the lender. I clicked forgot password. The recovery email was the altered version of mine, the one missing a single letter. That meant she had access to it, which meant she believed I didn't. I selected secondary verification. Security questions. Mother's maiden name. First duty station. High school mascot. All information she knew. I answered correctly. The reset link redirected to the full borrower dashboard. Loan amount, $60,000. Interest rate, predatory. Origination fee, aggressive. Status, approved. Awaiting borrower final acknowledgement. Underemployment, it listed. Civilian, medical consultant. Not active duty. Under income, it inflated my salary by nearly 40%. There was a digital signature block already populated with my name. The final step required one confirmation. A verbal acknowledgement call scheduled for the next afternoon. There was a notes section at the bottom of the page. It read, borrower eager to close quickly. Funds intended for real estate opportunity. Real estate. I didn't react. I exported the full dashboard as a PDF. Then I checked the IP log history. The application hadn't been submitted from my base. It had been submitted from my hometown. From a residential ISP. I opened the IP details. The lender's portal listed 3 login events tied to the application. Initial submission. Document upload. Pre-approval acknowledgement. All 3 originated from the same residential internet provider in my hometown. Timestamp between 2:14 p.m. and 3:02 p.m. At 2:14 p.m. that day, I was inside a trauma bay on base. My access badge logs would confirm it. So would shift records. So would camera footage if it ever came to that. I didn't need assumptions. I needed alignment. I cross-checked my own device history. No logins. No password resets initiated from my side. The only activity appeared 30 minutes earlier, when I triggered recovery. She hadn't used a VPN. Confidence makes people careless. I exported a full IP logs, timestamp metadata, employment misrepresentation, income inflation details, email alteration evidence. I created a folder on my encrypted drive. Title, documentation, and authorized loan activity. Then I called the lender's automated system and confirmed something critical. The final disbursement required borrower verbal affirmation on a recorded line, which meant if she planned to impersonate me again, it would be documented. An impersonation over recorded lines changes jurisdiction. This was no longer just fraud. It was wire fraud. The confirmation call was scheduled for 3:30 p.m. tomorrow, and I had a decision to make. She called me that evening. Her tone was lighter than usual. Controlled excitement led under casual delivery. We might be looking at a lake property, she said. Great investment window. Your father deserves something stable for retirement. I let her continue. We're closing soon. Small paperwork issue though. The lender wants all related parties present for final certification. Just procedural. Related parties. I'm not on any mortgage, I said evenly. Of course not, she replied quickly. It's just because funds are being moved between accounts. Compliance optics. You know how banks are. I knew how lenders were. She added, almost as an afterthought, it's Friday. Title company at 11. You should come home anyway. It'll look unified. Unified. In the background, I heard my father's voice. Indistinct. Quiet. Is there anything I need to review in advance? I asked. No, she said. It's already handled. Already handled. I glanced at the loan dashboard again. Funds pending. Real estate purpose declared. She believed she was ahead of me. I'll be there, I said. There was a pause. Brief. Satisfied. Good, she replied. After we hung up, I checked the lender portal one more time. The verbal confirmation call had been marked completed. Timestamp, 1 hour earlier. Borrower status, confirmed. I didn't call the police. Not yet. An arrest before disbursement would stop the loan. It would also reduce the paper trail to attempted fraud. Attempted cases are easier to dispute, easier to minimize, easier to recast as misunderstanding. What I needed wasn't interruption. It was certification. If she intended to use those funds for a property closing, she would have to sign disclosures. Possibly attest that the down payment wasn't borrowed. Possibly certify source of funds. False statements on lending documents don't disappear quietly. They escalate. I contacted a JAG officer on base. Hypothetical framing. Identity misuse. Financial exposure. Federal thresholds. He confirmed what I already suspected. If funds cross state lines electronically under false identity, jurisdiction expanded. I didn't disclose names. I requested one thing instead. A notarized identity theft affidavit template compliant with federal reporting standards. He sent it within the hour. I printed it, signed it, had it notarized on base the next morning. Then I booked a flight home. Not to confront, to let her finish. The title company had glass walls, neutral decor, framed compliance certifications, a receptionist who smiled without curiosity. My stepmother stood when I entered, confident, polished. Lake house enthusiasm contained beneath professionalism. "You made it," she said warmly. My father avoided eye contact. The loan officer, mid-40s, measured, shook my hand. "Good to have everyone present." Everyone. A closing packet sat centered on the table. Thick, tabbed, pre-highlighted. I took the seat across from her. She had already signed several preliminary acknowledgments. I recognized her handwriting immediately, deliberate, structured. The loan officer began explaining the structure. Private lender bridge loan. $60,000. Funds to be reflected as available liquidity for down payment certification. Bridge loan. So she hadn't used the money directly yet. She was using it to simulate capital. The officer turned a page toward her. "Before we proceed," he said, "we'll need final certification that down payment funds are not borrowed unless disclosed." She didn't hesitate. "I understand," she said calmly. My father shifted in his chair. The pen was placed in front of her, and she reached for it. The certification page was simple. One paragraph. Clear language. Borrower affirms that funds presented for down payment are not derived from undisclosed borrowed sources and that all financial representations made during underwriting are accurate. No complex legal phrasing. No ambiguity. The loan officer tapped the line lightly. Standard compliance affirmation. My stepmother scanned it for less than 5 seconds. "I've reviewed everything," she said. Her tone carried practiced assurance. "All funds are legitimate and available." She signed. Full signature. Not initials. The date followed. My father hesitated when the document slid toward him. Not legally required, but included as co-applicant acknowledgement. He looked at her. She nodded once. He signed. The officer collected the page and placed it neatly back into the stack. Ink drying in plain view. Procedural. Routine. Irreversible once submitted to underwriting. I kept my hands folded on the table. The officer then turned toward me. "Miss Brooke, since there were fund transfers associated with your accounts, we'll need your acknowledgement here as well." He rotated the packet in my direction. The signature line was blank. Waiting. I didn't touch the pen. "I won't be signing," I said evenly. The room didn't react immediately. It processed. The loan officer paused. "Is there a concern?" "Yes." I opened my folder. Not rushed. Tabbed. Indexed. First document. A notarized federal identity theft affidavit. I slid it across the table. This loan was obtained using my social security number without authorization. Silence. My stepmother exhaled softly. "Brooke, this isn't necessary." I continued. Second document. IP login logs from the lender's portal. Residential ISP. Timestamped. Third. Base access badge records confirming I was on duty during the submission window. Fourth. Email manipulation comparison. Original address versus altered version used in application. The loan officer's posture shifted. Not dramatic. Just attentive. "Are you alleging impersonation?" he asked carefully. "Yes." My father looked between us, color draining gradually. My stepmother attempted a small laugh. "This is a misunderstanding. We were aligning funds." "The borrower confirmation call," I said calmly, "was completed yesterday at 2:05 p.m. I placed the call log transcript on top of the stack. That was not me." The loan officer did not look at her. He looked at the documents. Then he reached for the phone on the conference table. The loan officer didn't raise his voice. "Compliance," he said into the receiver. "We need an immediate hold on file 7842B, potential identity misrepresentation. Do not release funds." He listened. Nodded once. "Yes. All parties present." He ended the call and closed the folder. "Until this is reviewed, the closing is suspended." Suspended. My stepmother straightened in her chair. "That's unnecessary. This can be clarified internally." The officer's tone stayed neutral. Once identity theft is formally alleged with notarized documentation, we are obligated to file a suspicious activity report. SAR. He turned to me. Have you filed with the FTC yet? Not yet, I replied. I wanted this documented first. Professional courtesy flickered across his expression. My father finally spoke. Brooke, we can talk about this privately. I looked at him. We are. Security entered the hallway outside the glass walls. Not aggressive. Standard protocol when a closing collapses under fraud review. My stepmother's composure thinned for the first time. This is family, she said tightly. You don't escalate family. I stood. Fraud isn't a family discussion. The officer gathered the documents. He said to her. You'll need to remain available for underwriting review. Her hand hit the table, not loud, but sharp enough to fracture the room's neutrality. And then she stood too. She followed me out of the conference room. Not running, not shouting, but moving with intent. The hallway cameras were visible, small domes in each corner. I noted them automatically. Brooke, she said sharply behind me. You don't understand what you've done. I pressed the elevator button. I understand exactly, I replied. Her composure fractured then. She stepped in front of me, hand catching my forearm, gripped tighter than necessary. This loan was temporary, she hissed. It was strategy. You just destroyed your father. I gently removed her hand. Not forceful, just precise. Don't touch me again. The elevator doors opened. She moved closer, voice lowering. Withdraw the affidavit. Say it was confusion. We can still salvage this. The hallway camera blinked red. Recording. I met her eyes. No. The doors began to close. She lunged, not dramatically, but forward enough to breach personal space. I stepped back into the elevator, creating visible distance. Security's footsteps approached from behind her. And for the first time, she looked uncertain. The suspicious activity report was filed that afternoon. I confirmed it 2 days later when the Lender's Compliance Division contacted me for a recorded statement. Concise. Factual. Timeline only. Within a week, the private lender rescinded the loan formally and forwarded the file to federal authorities due to interstate electronic transmission and impersonation during a recorded wire acknowledgement. The charges came 6 weeks later. Wire fraud. Aggravated identity theft. False statements to a financial institution. My stepmother was indicted, not arrested dramatically, not publicly paraded, just served. My father called once, voice smaller than I remembered. They're freezing accounts, he said. Retirement funds. Legal retainers aren't cheap. I didn't respond emotionally. Defense attorneys require liquidity. He had co-signed certifications tied to misrepresented funds. Consequences distribute evenly. I didn't know, he said quietly. I believe you, I replied. Ignorance isn't a legal defense on signed disclosures. When the call ended, I documented it. Then I blocked his number. The indictment wasn't revenge. It was procedure catching up. The restraining order wasn't dramatic. It was preventative. After the elevator incident, her attorney attempted informal contact twice. Once through extended family. Once through a mutual acquaintance suggesting reconciliation before court. I filed for a protective order citing documented impersonation, financial harm, and physical contact captured on hallway surveillance. Granted without contest. No direct contact. No third-party communication. No digital outreach. I updated all financial institutions with extended fraud alerts. 7-year monitoring flag. Beneficiaries revised. Emergency contacts removed. Power of attorney contingencies nullified. Clean separation isn't emotional. It's administrative. My father's number remained blocked. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Silence is easier when boundaries are formal. The house they nearly purchased went back on the market. The lake remained where it was. And for the first time in years, I stopped checking my phone for family notifications. But I didn't stop checking my accounts. I moved into a smaller apartment near base. Nothing impressive. Clean. Predictable. Mine. My savings account stabilized within 3 months. Credit fully restored. Fraud notation permanently attached to the dismissed loan file. No lingering liabilities. The federal case proceeded without my involvement beyond testimony. Documentary evidence carries its own weight. I wasn't asked to confront her in court theatrically. There were no speeches, no apologies offered, just procedural language and sentencing guidelines. My father liquidated a portion of his retirement to fund her defense. It wasn't enough. I don't follow updates anymore. My accounts balance on Sundays. My phone stays quiet. Control, I've learned, isn't about winning. It's about not being accessible to loss again. And I am no longer accessible.